Hello and welcome to Views from the Sideline, May 15, 2018. We are back in the studio like we said we would be. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Pappas, with me, Joey Tysick, and the other co-host.
Hello, people.
And breaking news into the studio, like Joey just said, the Views from the Sideline radio podcast show has signed Malik Hill to come on as a co-host of the show. Congrats, Malik.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm so happy right now.
No longer
This
a
is-
guest, you're official.
This is an honor.
Pleasure.
Shaking
pleasure.
everybody's
Yeah,
hand. This is.
I mean, it's
I'm
essentially-
part of the business now.
We
This
decided
is
to make it an
serious.
official. We talked to the executives up top, and we just decided that it was the right move at the right time.
Yeah, we decided to throw an offer your way. Your agent told our agent, our executive, it was a done deal. So we're happy to have you, Malik. Happy to have you on board.
I'm
He didn't
honored.
tell you we used our minimum on you, so
Joey, don't break
Listen,
that. What do you,
I will not do you like the Toronto Raptors. I will tell you that much. You can believe in me.
appreciate it. That's what
I
we're
like
looking
that.
for.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. I mean, news around the NBA. It's playoff season. We'll be breaking down the playoffs for the next couple weeks up until June. The NBA is back, baby. But, Joey, I want you to jump right in. The Houston Rockets. I mean, I want to cover the semis where we left off last week. I think the two series that we had where we weren't able to finish with was Houston and Utah, and then Boston and Philly. I think those are the two left at the time. Houston finished off the Utah Jazz 4-1. They won that game 5 that night, and it was a relatively close game until the final minutes. Before we jump into the Houston side of things, Utah Jazz season is over. These guys had a huge turnaround of a season. Mad props to Quinn Snyder. Mad props to Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Ricky Rubio, everybody buying in, and just a bunch of the role players really having a fantastic finish to the season. Royce O'Neal being one of them, an unsung hero for that team. Jonas Jerebko, former Piston, giving them spot minutes. Derek Favors really came on, stretching the floor a little bit, played well next to Rudy Gobert, who they thought they might have to trade. Derek Favors, that is, because they didn't know if it was going to work out. Talk about the Utah Jazz and how this season went.
Also, the late season Jay Crowder acquisition
Jay
was pretty
Crowder
nice.
was a huge
He
pick.
had some big games for them. They were just a solid team overall. They play hard-nosed defense. They're gritty. They're fun to watch, actually. I like watching them. I think we said last week, it's unfortunate that Ricky Rubio was hurt in this series. Obviously, I think it would have made a big difference because he's a floor general for that team. He attacks the basket, and
He's a very good defender as well.
and he spaces the floor. He helps their team space the floor out, which they have some good shooters. Joe Ingles, one of the best percentage shooters in the league. So it was fun to watch them. Unfortunately, their run had to come to an end. But, I mean, you face a team like the Rockets, it's going to be a tough hill to climb no matter what, even with Rubio in the lineup. So they were definitely good. I think Quinn Snyder is definitely in the talk for Coach of the Year.
I think he should win it personally.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I can see the arguments for all the other coaches. There's a lot of good coaching this year, I think. And, I mean, just hats off to the Utah Jazz this year. They're fun to watch.
Yeah, Malik, and I'll toss this to you now, too, talking about the Utah Jazz, how they finished their 2017-18 season. A lot of writers, broadcasters picked Utah to finish outside of the playoffs, and it looked that way halfway through the season. I mean, they were, 14 games under 500 midway through the year. They have a miraculous turnaround, led by one of the best rookies since Michael Jordan, Donovan Mitchell.
You can say it again.
One of the best rookies since Michael Jordan.
Thank you very much.
But, I mean, I got to give props to Malik. I mean, before the playoffs even started, this guy said he reminds me of a young Michael Jordan. And I gave him the boo sound effect, the toilet bowl. I gave him everything. And
Things
you know
changed
what?
very quickly.
It changed very quickly. Malik got one up on us on that one. So, yeah, Malik, break down the Jazz for us. What did you like? What did you see? And what do you think they need to do moving forward into next season?
Now, the Jazz, they might be the most impressive part of this NBA season, in my opinion. I mean, I think Quinn Snyder is Coach of the Year. Donovan Mitchell is Rookie of the Year. The emergence of Ricky Rubio, them getting rid of Rodney Hood because they saw that something was kind of off with him.
Yeah.
And getting Jay Crowder and rejuvenating Jay Crowder.
That was a really big
within
chemistry
here.
move, I feel like.
I didn't know who Royce O'Neal was before this season. They bring him in, and he becomes a big-time guy off the bench for them. I mean, that fan base should be really, really confident in the future of that team because they have a budding star in Donovan Mitchell. You have a veteran point guard. You have the pieces You need to add maybe a few more veterans. I don't even think you may need another superstar, but I like that core that they have.
I like the
right
core,
there,
and maybe they look at what elite point guard may be on the market, because you never know in the NBA. There's always some star player that could maybe Utah thinks it could bring him over the top, because Ricky Rubio is a solid player, but he's no superstar. And with this team having Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and a head coach like Quinn Snyder, if they get a star caliber point guard, that really could be somebody that pushes them over the top. And I also want to mention, too, when we're talking Utah, that new colorway and the new court that they had was absolutely fantastic.
Great moves all around.
Great
That
moves.
organization is doing a lot of great stuff right now.
They're making big moves over in Utah. But yeah, Joey, what do you think in the summer Utah has to improve upon to make a serious push? And by serious push, I mean maybe contend for a Western Conference matchup with the Golden State Warriors, because that's what's going to happen next year too.
I think they need to look back into reevaluating what they want to do with Derek Favors. I think he's a really good talent. He's had some good years in the league, but a lot of those years have been up and down. And with the way the NBA has been going, obviously, you kind of need that stretch four, and Derek Favors doesn't really do that.
But if you trade away a Derek Favors brought a lot of a defensive mentality to this team.
Right, and I understand that. But I feel like there's other guys on that team, like Jay Crowder, that can bring that intensity from different positions. And I also don't know about they're in the same somewhat situation as the Pistons, where their forward position is a little bit awkward.
I mean, the Pistons do have one of the better front lines in the
because
NBA, though.
Me personally, I don't think that Joe Ingles or Jay Crowder is that great of a starter. I think they're really good off the bench.
I agree with you
role
on that,
players.
yeah.
So I think if they could shore that up or figure something out for that, maybe if you move Derek Favors for a better starting three, maybe you could look at that.
Could I interest them in maybe a Carmelo Anthony?
I don't know.
Carmelo's going to go somewhere, guys. I
think Joe Ingles is giving you more than Carmelo Anthony.
I'm
Carmelo give the Thunder this year.
But Joe Ingles, Quinn Snyder's not a guy that's going to just play Carmelo because he's his name. You know, if Carmelo's playing bad, Quinn's going to put him on the bench.
But that's going to cause bad chemistry because Carmelo ain't sitting on the bench.
And he's not a spot-up shooter. He needs the ball in his hands.
That is true as well. But that could take pressure off Donovan Mitchell. And we saw in the series against Houston, when the ball was not moving for Utah, and they put the ball in Donovan's hands, the defense collapsed on Donovan, and he had trouble kind of passing out of the double teams and creating. I know it was his only first year, but maybe having another ball-dominant player and a guy like Carmelo, maybe rejuvenated after a subpar year, might be a fit in Utah. I don't know. It's just speculation.
I feel like that's not a good gel thing because
it's possible.
Because you have Rubio.
I'm spitballing right now.
I'm just saying because you have Rubio as a guy that likes to get into the paint and dish it out from there. Whereas if you just have Rubio dribble up the court and then pass it to Carmelo for an ISO play, you basically like negate all of what Ricky Rubio is good at making these flashy passes and getting into the paint to spread out the floor. So I don't know if it necessarily would work for the team. I think they're more of a team unit, similar to like how the Celtics are playing this year.
That's exactly what I was.
So I don't know if it fits them. I understand your point.
No, I hear you.
Because they don't have much of a leader necessarily, but I don't know. I'm a big advocate of Carmelo, but this year is really.
It was an eye-opener.
I really have to question it now. So
yeah, for Utah, I think they have to look at some wing depth. I mean, maybe a guy like a Rudy Gay is available, and I think he could be a nice fit there. Just something that's not just Joe Ingles and Jay Crowder. And Royce O'Neal, who was a rookie this year. Yeah, he was an older rookie. He was like 25, 26, but he was still a rookie. And then point guard. If there's a point guard that becomes available, you never know. Like Kemba Walker, there were rumbles of Kemba being available. Now there's a new regime in Charlotte. Kemba trade rumbles could happen again. Utah might have the pieces to make a trade work or a 3-team deal, and Kemba and Donovan Mitchell would be a dynamic backcourt, along with a Rudy Gobert as your starting center. But yeah, overall, Utah had an absolutely fantastic season. One of the best storylines in the NBA this year. Sad to see him get out early, especially because Ricky could have made a huge difference in the series against Houston, but the Rockets move on. Injuries are part of the game, especially in the NBA. And yeah, so Jazz are out. Houston currently trails 1-0 against Golden State, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Moving on to the other series that finished last week, Boston over Philly. And that was an exciting Game 5. Philly did not go out easy. It was a 4-1 series win for the Celtics, but that easily could have been a 2-2 tie heading into Game 5 and maybe a 3-2 Sixers lead with how close these games were. Philly gave away that Game 3. They were up, 4 points with 40 seconds left. Absolutely choked it away. What was your take from the Boston-Philly series, Joe?
Philly didn't look like they did during the regular season. I don't think they looked very crisp or smooth. Yeah, they got a couple games where they stayed close, but I think that's just because of the talent that they have on their team and that they've acquired over the years. But Joel Embiid struggled at times. He had a couple good games. The last game, I think he had a double-double, so that was a pretty good game. But Ben Simmons heavily struggled in this game as well. I think
in the series.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stats were showing that when Ben Simmons was on the floor, they were getting outscored, and when he was off the floor, they were outscoring the Celtics, which is kind of crazy because he's been like their primary guy to start the offense throughout the season. So to see him kind of disappear, I don't know if it was necessarily the Celtics taking him away.
I think it was,
but
personally.
I just didn't think that they would be able to do that. So it threw me off of how the Celtics struggled in this series, especially with the three-point shooters that they've acquired.
You mean the Sixers struggled?
Sixers, yes.
Okay.
And I realize that the Celtics have one of the best defenses in the NBA, but I don't know. The Sixers just seemed so good going into this series that I thought they would be able to run away with it. But, I mean, obviously, as we'll talk about, the Celtics are a solid team, and they're looking really strong right now.
I think this series all came down to the better coach. Brad Stevens is a top 3 coach in the NBA. Yeah, I'm not giving him the Coach of the Year award because I think Quinn Snyder turned that team around midseason and was miraculous in his development of Donovan Mitchell. But Brad Stevens, to me, is probably the best coach in the NBA as of right now. With the players that he has, the young guys, the role players, they're in the conference finals without Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. Beating the likes of Philly, who has all that star power. Yeah, I know they're young, but they still have star power and those shooters, like you were saying. For them to take away Ben Simmons, they made sure Ben Simmons didn't get a basket in the paint. Ben Simmons doesn't want to shoot that mid-range jump shot even. And that's something Simmons has to work on in the offseason. But Malik, was there anything else Philly could have done to maybe turn this series around? Or did Boston just make the bigger plays down the stretch?
Well, Boston definitely did make the bigger plays down the stretch, but there was a lot Philly could have done. They basically gave away 2 games, in my opinion. That game in Philly,
they
where
game 3.
Fourth quarter and overtime, they just turned the ball over, 3 or 4 times in the last few minutes of both periods. I mean, and on Brett, I think Brett Brown is a pretty good coach. I think he deserves credit for sticking through the process and getting this team to the playoffs with the young guys that he has with a mix of veterans. But his play calling wasn't top notch. It didn't match Brad Stevens whatsoever. He was thoroughly outcoached, and that team fought hard. But
and I think that
Boston defensively coaching. Philly wasn't ready.
And I think that was the first time that Brett Brown actually thoroughly got outcoached this season. Brett Brown has been a fantastic coach on how he developed this team and the system they ran and the defense they played against others. I think he just went up against one of the best coaches in the NBA and felt flat. I mean, it was his first playoff experience. He'll be better next year, but Stevens is a dynamic coach. Moving into our future outlook for the Philadelphia 76ers, coming into this season, I didn't have them making the playoffs. I had them as a 9 seed. They won 52 games this year.
Including playoffs? Or
regular season.
Regular season.
I completely
I know.
didn't realize they won over 50
They won,
games.
what was it, 17 straight games to finish the regular season? Absolutely crazy. Never saw that coming. So they had a fantastic season, but I'm going to go to Joey again here. In the offseason, if you're Philly, what do you have to improve? Is it just young players having to develop, or is it a piece or two that they can add?
I think it's a veteran superstar.
Whoa!
I think there's been a lot of
Is it a
rumbles.
specific veteran?
Not necessarily. Like, I'm not going to hot take this one.
No, we need a hot take.
But
Views from the Sideline is built upon hot takes.
Okay, hot take. LeBron's going to Philly. No.
Trust the process,
I don't
baby.
necessarily believe that. But I think that Philly has made a case for themselves for any of these big name guys that are going to be free agents this summer to mightily look at Philadelphia 76ers as a potential landing spot.
And to your point, too, sorry to cut you off there, but to your point, LeBron did say in the latter part of his career, he wants to go off the ball more. And I think that plays to Philly's hand because Philly wants the ball in Ben Simmons' hands. LeBron passing the torch maybe to Ben Simmons and saying, hey, watch how I do this, and then I'll let you be that ball-dominant guy. I mean, continue, Joe. Sorry.
I think, well, and especially I think all these superstars that are going to be available also bring that veteran leadership that I think that Philadelphia is lacking. They do have JJ Redick, which I think he's become a bit of a leader for that team a little bit. But at the same time, I think you need that big old superstar to be like, hey, I'm here. We're going to win something. We're going to do something now. And especially, I think, too, to get Joel Embiid a little bit more motivated because at times he does that Dwight Howard, Andre Drummond kind of thing where he gets a little bit too playful, I think.
I agree with you, yeah.
I think that has to do with more with stamina than...
Yeah, I was going to say that, too.
He plays hard every
I
minute.
feel like
when he gets tired, I can see...
Yeah, I agree with Malik there. I think it's more his antics get more, like, publicity. Maybe ESPN's like, oh, look what Joel did this time. But I think it's a stamina that played a role, especially we saw in, what was it, Game 3, the overtime game, where he had to get taken out because he just wasn't getting back on defense. And that was a huge sign. If your star guy can't be on the floor in the crunch time of a deciding game of your season, that's huge. I'm going to go to Malik. Same question, Malik. Is it something Philly has to do personnel-wise, or is it just their young guys developing for Philly to improve upon this season?
Now, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid definitely have to get better. Joel has to get in great shape, and Ben Simmons has to develop his offensive game. I think that alone could get them maybe to Eastern Conference Finals next year. But most analysts have been mentioning Paul George. That's the favorite. Yeah, that's the favorite. Everybody thinks he'd be a perfect fit. I've been thinking for a few years if they got Klay Thompson, there's the guy.
No way Clay's leaving.
I think that would be amazing.
There's no way Clay's leaving the
If
Bay.
anybody leaves the Warriors, I think it would be Klay.
If anybody, yes, I'd agree with you. But
didn't Klay say that he's gonna
take
a small pay cut anyway?
I mean, if anybody,
well, I'd take a small pay cut to stay on the Warriors too, honestly.
Right.
But.
And he seems like he enjoys the Warriors. So.
No, he does. I mean, I agree with Malik that if there was a Warrior that's gonna leave, it'd be Klay. But I don't see it happening.
But any star that's like a spot up shooter and can defend and can also create offense along with the other two stars.
Clay's just kind of like that super super form of JJ Redick. Like he's just the better form of JJ Redick. Like that's it.
And he plays top level defense. So
he does.
Too.
He's a lot more than
JJ Redick. He signed that 1 year deal. He's gonna get paid again this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
whether solid year.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He played. That was probably they won't.
I know.
Stan's gone. If Stan was here, he would. But
he's too much money anyway.
But yeah, for me, I think honestly, I don't think they're gonna get any of those star players. I don't think LeBron's going to Philly.
Really, you don't think any of the big names are gonna?
I don't think Kawhi's gonna go to Philly because I think Kawhi wants to be in a big market, and that's what his team and his management want him to be. And I don't think Philly's that big of a market for Kawhi. I think Kawhi wants to go LA. And I think Paul George wants to go LA. I don't see any of those top three forwards going to Philadelphia. I think we're going to have to see development from that core. I think Ben Simmons must address his perimeter shooting, whether it's just maybe developing a mid-range game. I think that's what hampered him the most. He wouldn't even shoot a 15-foot jump shot.
5 to 10 feet.
He would shoot 5 to 10. Yeah, 5 to 10 feet was his range, and he would shoot floaters. I saw maybe one turnaround jump shot from Ben Simmons in the entire playoffs.
He had a few fadeaway jumpers, and then he wouldn't go back to it.
He went the entire NBA regular season and postseason without making a three-pointer.
All I saw was half-court shots at the end of regulation. Did he ever take a three?
That's what I'm wondering, too.
I've never seen him.
I don't think I've ever seen him just take a standstill three in the flow of the offense.
He shoots them before games, which is pretty funny.
Hey, at least he's not like Josh Smith, and he knows that he can't shoot.
That's
Whereas
true.
Josh Smith would just throw up shots.
But I think that's something that Ben Simmons needs to work. It's the offseason now. It's the offseason now. It's time to put in that work. Other guys on that team, I think Robert Covington just has to become more consistent. I think Philly lost a huge piece. Lloyd Pierce, one of their head assistant coach, who was really in charge of their defense. And Philly's defense was in that elite tier of the NBA. Lloyd Pierce got hired to be the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks. He signed a 4-year deal with the Hawks. So he's gone, so they have to replace him. and his role on that coaching staff, which was handling the defense. I think that's going to play a big role as well, depending on who they can fill in his shoes. But yeah, so Boston beat Philly 4-1. They're currently leading the Eastern Conference Finals 1-0 over Cleveland after a demolishing win over the Cavaliers 108-83. Do you think the Cavs sit down in game 1 or game 2, Malik? Do you think they take another L tonight?
I don't have much hope in the Cavaliers besides
Really?
LeBron James. I mean,
But they have LeBron though.
how do you show up as a team
But how do you
in the first game of the Eastern Conference Final? I don't care if it's in Boston. You don't play
they
defense.
Laid flat. Yeah, that was
you
terrible.
barely run up and down the court.
Start 0 of 12.
Yeah,
from
I
the
mean, start at 0
3-point
of 12. That's just
They were down
unlucky.
34-13 within the first quarter of the game.
I mean, not missing shots is. I mean, not hitting shots is one thing, but
yeah.
the effort. Where's the effort? This
Yeah,
is
it
the
was
big
not
time.
there. They gave up
It
quickly.
looked like they took a game off, and I don't understand that.
I think part of it
as
is
an NBA fan.
these young guys maybe not having experience of the playoffs, but I mean, Jordan Clarkson.
LeBron's struggled heavily, and he's been here multiple times. Do you think
LeBron's due to have one bad game.
Yeah, but some people,
Marcus Morris is the second best defender on him outside of Kawhi Leonard.
according to Marcus Morris, but do you? I know some people have talked about. Do you think that maybe the Cavs had too long of a break in between their win because they swept the Raptors? They had to wait, and that they're rested and they're not in that same mode of attack mode when you're in an actual series. Whereas the Celtics went 7 with Philly, and they're coming right off a game.
Celtics went 5.
Oh yeah, right.
And Cavs swept.
Rest
they-
is one thing
they
I'm never
didn't-
really sure about.
Their series ended after the Cavs, and they didn't have as long as a rest.
I
So
agree.
they're still in that mode of playoff mode, whereas the Cavs
They had what? Maybe
kinda
one.
sitting
sorry.
around, and LeBron's like, "Oh yeah, I get to go home and rest," and then you can't simulate a playoff game in practice,
Yeah, completely.
which is
agree
a
with
thing that a lot of people have pointed out, and I kind of get it. I don't know if that's actually attributed to their game, but
the going to work Pistons had the same issue sometimes. They'd lay down flat for game ones. They struggled in Eastern Conference Finals almost every year. They made it out twice out of the 7 or 8 trips they made to the Eastern Conference Finals with that core. They tend to lay flat in big games, and I think this Cleveland team tends to lay flat in big games. Outside of LeBron, Jordan Clarkson struggled. Jeff Green struggles. J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver have been somewhat consistent through that Toronto series. We finally saw Kevin Love play a little bit better. He needs to get back to being that second star, and I think Ty Lue has to make it a priority to get him going early.
I think they need to put him back in the post. They did it against the Raptors, and you saw him have
Exactly.
a great
I
game.
think it's Ty Lue that needs to.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that. I was talking with my dad the other day about people don't realize people only think of Kevin Love as the Cavs. I remember Kevin Love on the Timberwolves.
That's
just
what I remember most about Kevin Love.
dominating the post.
The guy
and
that
just-
had 30 games.
right, just
Yeah.
a double machine almost every night, and he has great post work, and you can see it, but they don't post him up as much.
I think he lost a little bit of that drive, though. I do.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is just because of the team that he was put into to stretch the floor, and they somewhat forced him into that. So I think he went away from it. So I think it's a little bit of both.
I agree with you, and also I think that stunted his growth as a player because now Kyrie's gone, but Kevin doesn't have that ability to go back to his Minnesota days. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, he slimmed down a bit too, which I think plays a little bit.
Exactly,
Yeah, maybe
lost a little bit of
yeah.
strength in there.
He was-
Yeah.
he was strong.
So you can see it at times. Like there's flashes of it. He's obviously has great footwork down in the post, but he doesn't always look to go to that. And I don't know if it's him or the coaching playbook, but it probably is a little bit of both, honestly.
Is this the year LeBron's final streak ends?
We keep asking.
We've
is
been
this
asking
the
this every
year?
week.
Is this the year? Is this the year LeBron doesn't get out of the first round? Is this the first year that LeBron doesn't get out of the second? But I don't think he's going to make the finals.
Now,
Especially if they lose tonight. If they lose tonight, there's no way they come back from 0-2.
I am picking the Celtics. I think they're the deeper team. I think they want it more. I think that's going to play a huge role. I don't see that drive in Jordan Clarkson. I don't see that drive in George Hill. J.R. Smith looks like another finals. Who cares? Kyle Korver, I think he's playing consistently, but Tristan Thompson, he's another guy that gives you a lot of effort, but he's just not that skilled of a player. Malik, are the Cavaliers coming out of the Eastern Conference this year?
I have so much trust in LeBron, but Boston, from coaching to the team to
Are we doing a
how
good?
hard they play, Boston checks it off in almost every box to me to win the series. But LeBron,
I think
I don't. It's so hard for me to pick this one. I'm gonna say
I'm
Boston.
putting you on the hot. You're
because
picking Boston.
It makes sense that
Wow.
Boston wins this series.
I agree with you. I'm picking Boston too, but I've picked against LeBron almost in every single series because I'm a LeBron Cleveland hater. But moving on, we have game 2 tonight. I think that's going to be a big telling of how the series is going to go. I don't think LeBron's going to lay flat. I think Cleveland might take this one. I'm picking Boston in 7, but I think LeBron's going to show out tonight, have a huge game, and send a message to the Celtics and to Marcus Morris in particular for talking a big game.
That might come back to bite him.
Every time someone talks junk about LeBron James in the playoffs, like, just keep your mouth shut, do your work, and maybe he just doesn't get that drive. I think Marcus maybe just gave him a little bit more of a fire to play the best that he can.
But if you saw too, like the Celtics didn't. Jason Tatum finally broke his streak of 20 or 7 straight games with 20+ points.
But he
scoring
still played
16
well.
in game 1. So obviously you can get more offensive firepower from him to
Well,
attack more. I know he kind of played a little bit back because everybody was scoring on that team, but
Yeah.
The Celtics do have people that can somewhat take over games.
Nope, definitely. Before we move on to the Houston Golden State series, I want to talk about the drastic turn the NBA playoffs has had from round 1 to round 2. We talked about how awesome the NBA playoffs were in that first round. All those series were fun to watch. All these matchups, it was gritty, it was grimy. People were going at it with one another. The conference semis were kind of trash.
Yep.
I mean,
Pelicans had one good game.
we didn't have a game 6 in the conference semis. We had 3 game 5s and 1 sweep.
Yep.
It was just sad. And the only competitive series really was Philly-Boston.
Yeah.
I mean,
it felt closer than 5
Houston,
games.
Utah had some close games. And we had the game Blouses by Donovan Mitchell. That was probably my favorite picture of the season. Him with that putback dunk. But New Orleans didn't put up the fight like we thought they were. Joey picked them in the NBA Finals. Didn't really work out. But, I mean, Joey's the king of hot takes.
You got to go for it sometimes.
You got to shoot your shot. Shooters got to shoot.
They look good all right in some games.
No, they did. They did. And I think we didn't expect Steph to come back as soon as he did. And that played a role in your predictions.
Right.
I mean, if Steph doesn't come back, that's probably somewhat of a series.
Yeah.
But do we think either of these series are going to be extended past 5 games? Or are we going to see another kind of subpar conference finals, another walk of the Golden State Warriors heading to another title?
I think it's all about these game 2s. If Cleveland can win game 2 tonight, I think it can be a series. If Boston wins tonight, I think it's over. For Houston and Golden State just seems so good right now. They always peak at like the perfect time. And people always talk about LeBron James this, LeBron James that. How do you guard that? How do you guard Kevin Durant?
There's no guard.
Well, you can't guard.
They threw everybody on him last night.
He's a 7-footer that shoots threes, can handle the ball, and just he's incredible.
Well, I think there is a way you guard Kevin Durant, but you can't do it when you have another MVP playing alongside him with 2 other All-Stars. You just can't help with that lineup out there. Not to mention, most of the time they'll go to their death lineup where they have really no true center. They have Draymond playing the 5, KD playing the 4, Iggy on the 3, and then Clay and Steph. Like this,
there's no stopping
this, in my opinion, I think the Golden State Warriors right now, as constructed, are the greatest team in basketball history.
I debated this to myself the other day. I was
trying
to think about it. Obviously, in our generation, I don't think there's any other team that's better.
I don't think you can put the Bulls.
I always want to say the 04 Pistons just because of,
I mean, yeah.
you know,
Shout out Chauncey.
Biased, but I think that would have been cool. Like the best, in my opinion, the best offensive team in this generation matched up against the best defensive team, in my opinion, in this generation.
I think 2 things.
That would be pretty exciting.
If this Golden State team played back in 2004, the Pistons have a good shot of winning it.
Can you see Rasheed Wallace and Draymond Green going at it?
Oh,
No, I know.
that will be one of the best things
I
to
think
watch.
I
mean,
think Rasheed would shut Draymond Green
we
up,
talked
Oh, he
about-
would.
which would be great.
I think we talked about on the
Rasheed
show.
wouldn't know how to handle him at all.
Yeah.
I mean, Draymond wouldn't know how to handle Rasheed.
I think we talked about it on the show how Draymond Green is like the little brother of that 04 Pistons team. He's in a group chat with Rasheed, Chauncey, Rip,
Right.
Ben Wallace. I mean, I think it's funny how that worked out. Draymond would have been a fantastic Detroit Piston.
Draymond's starting to get a little annoying to me.
He's always annoying, but that's
Yeah.
Drayman Green.
but
I've
a
never
lot
liked
of time,
him.
a lot of
but
times when he yells and screams, it's trash talk to get into the heads of the other players
If-
and to hype himself up in the other players.
yeah, I think it's more so to hype him up.
The
than anything
game
else.
yesterday, he was screaming at the refs every time he clearly fouled somebody.
How
Yeah.
did he not get thrown
screaming.
out?
I don't know.
He should
Especially
have gotten thrown out in the first.
If it was
quarter.
any other player, if
What-
it's any other basketball
first-
player, he gets thrown out.
the first basket from James Harden and he
That was
pushes him
pretty-
like that
I
was
know. That was such a bad
once
move on his
he fouled
part.
PJ Tucker on the 3 and then ran up
I
and down
know.
like
I understand
on.
from Draymond, he's like, PJ grabbed me and pulled me down, but you landed on his arm first.
yeah, you hit his arm.
Yeah, you
first.
hit his arm before
Uh,
any extracurriculars occurred.
He's too good of a player.
Yeah, I could do a whole
to do that type of
podcast
stuff to
on
me.
the 04 Pistons versus the Warriors.
We might have to do, like, in the summertime, we might have to do, like, a blast from the past
04
Pistons,
Pistons
breakdown.
podcast.
Rank our best teams of all time.
I mean, that's been in the works. We've been talking about that. But yeah, after that game 119-106 Golden State, it was tied at 56 at halftime. A lot of moving parts here in this game. James Harden looked like the MVP, especially in the first quarter. It seemed like every time he had the ball one-on-one, the crowd got on their
He
feet.
couldn't miss.
He couldn't miss. The crowd was hyped after every layup. They were standing and cheering.
I think the Rockets were down by like 8 or 10 with
And
2
then-
or 3 minutes
yeah,
left
and
in
then
the
they
second
came back to
quarter, and
tie
they
it.
just all of a sudden exploded. And James Harden had 24 in the first half.
Yeah.
So,
He had 24 in the first half. Finished with, what, 17 in the second? I mean, he had 41 points, 7 assists. Harden played like an MVP, and they still lost by 13 at home.
well, that's because Kevin Durant scored 37.
And that Clay scored 28.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Clay got his 28 by Houston focusing their entire attention on Kevin Durant.
And Clay didn't even shoot that good. I think he was 6 of 15 from the 3-point line.
Let us see.
Yeah,
So
he took a lot of threes.
Yeah, he was 6 for 15. I
So
mean, that
that's-
is 40%.
like, that's-
That's 40% three-point shooter.
yeah, I mean, as a 3
it's a lot of attempts.
But
though.
like for a guy like Clay to get that many attempts and only make 6 is actually pretty
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, Clay played 42 minutes. KD played 40. Draymond 36. Steph right under 35. Kevon Looney played 25 minutes in that
He
one.
played pretty good too.
He's been getting a lot in this playoffs.
Yeah, Steve Kerr's he has said post game too that he has a lot of confidence in Looney, especially defensively, going to get up against Houston's big guys. I mean, like Nene and Clint Capella. Capella, I think, is another big name guy. Maybe in the offseason we might see him maybe switch teams. I've heard a lot of rumors
I was
about
just gonna
that.
bring that up. People need to talk about Clint Capella more.
That guy is
in the third and fourth quarter, he was guarding Steph Curry, like really guarding Steph.
Yeah.
He stole the ball from him once. The rise of Clint Capella, he's a top 3 center in the league right
yeah,
now.
if
I
not
think
for
he's
I
in-
can't believe
if
how
not
good
for
he's
Victor
become.
Oladipo, like he'd be up in the most improved.
I think Clint
Probably,
I think Clint is a future defensive player of the year.
no question.
Yeah. Maybe multiple defense. He's in that mold of a Rudy Gobert. And I think Clint's a little bit more athletic.
Yeah,
I think Rudy's got the timing down and more of that defensive instincts, but I think that'll come with Capella more so as he
Yeah.
develops as a player. He's still young, pretty young.
that's another thing. He's so young.
Yeah.
And he's starting to be able to guard the 1 through 5. It's crazy.
He gets down in a defensive stance too, and it's not like he's a clumsy big man. He can get down in a
Yeah.
stance and guard you one-on-one. And it makes Houston that much of a better defensive team when they can just constantly switch and switch. And that's how you have to play if you're going to beat Golden State. You have to be able to switch all 5 guys. Your center has to be able to guard their point guard. Because if you give them any breathing room by going under a screen or going over a screen,
3 right in your
it's
face.
not going to work out, you know?
Still can't guard Kevin Durant though,
No, they
but
can't.
nobody can.
Moving on, though, we have the Warriors. Yeah, they won 119-106. What is it? Game 2 will be tomorrow night? Or is it Thursday?
I don't know actually. I think it's tomorrow, but I don't know. I don't pay attention to the schedule.
I mean, I'll see when it comes on.
I look at the day of.
Yeah, I hope this one goes past 5, but I think Chuck said it. I mean, do you guys watch the Inside the NBA after
Yeah.
the games? Chuck said Warriors.
Charles Barkley is depressed after every series
know.
now.
I mean, I'm
He's-
gonna
he's
ride with
upset
Chuck
after
here. He
every
said
series.
Warriors in 3. I'm picking Warriors in 3.
Problem is Chuck hasn't been right at all.
Exactly.
He
whole
said he
playoffs,
picked
so,
Warriors
I
in
mean,
3.
I know, but I'm just saying,
That says everything.
Even if he's saying that they're gonna sweep, like now I don't know because Chuck said it. So.
Is
Yeah.
that- although I don't trust what he says half the time in these
Oh,
playoffs.
whenever Chuck says anything, you go against. You bet against whatever he says.
Pretty much.
Did he say Toronto was going to destroy Cleveland,
I think
and then
Uh,
the Cavs swept?
Crazy prediction. But I don't know if the Rockets can pull one out, honestly. They played.
I was gonna ask
they
you, that was
played-
my
they
next
played really
question.
well yesterday.
That was my next question.
They played really well. The problem was Trevor Ariza got into foul trouble early. Gerald Green got into foul trouble in the second half.
Luke Richard Batumute couldn't make a layup, couldn't make an
Exactly.
open shot.
He's
I
Luke
mean,
Richard and Bahamute.
Yeah, I know.
You can only expect so
That-
much.
I think they need a one of those electric Gerald Green games.
I think
to
they need the role players that we just said, like the guys like PJ Tucker, Gerald Green, Trevor Ariza, Luke. They need to at least have average games, maybe slightly above average, to take the pressure off Chris Paul and James Harden, which the Warriors are going to aggressively defend. Those guys got to make their open shots for the Rockets to have any chance.
Another thing, they don't play Ryan Anderson that much anymore.
I was
so
surprised by
yeah.
that. I was really surprised they didn't play Ryan.
If you
That's
put
'cause
him
I
in, he
think-
probably won't have that much confidence
I
because
think he gets-
D'Antoni won't play him that
I think
much.
he gets torched by Draymond
Yeah.
Green and Andre Iguodala.
He's a
though.
defensive liability.
Well, I don't think Draymond's. I don't think he's that much of a liability against Draymond because I don't think Draymond's that aggressive
Well, no, what I'm saying, I think
offensively.
offensively, I don't think he can do anything against Iguodala or Draymond Green.
Oh well, Ryan will shoot the 3 ball from 30 feet. I mean, he can help
yeah, but
spread that.
I'm just
floor.
saying, like Iguodala will play in your face, Draymond will play in your face, so that's hard as a shooter, even such as Ryan Anderson. So I don't know. I think it'd be a little bit of a nightmare issue or matchup issue.
Yeah, they didn't even play Joe Johnson. I thought that was weird too.
Yeah, I
was
felt-
really weird.
I felt like they would have used him a little bit more. Obviously, I'm a huge Joe Johnson fan, always have been. But
Yeah.
I don't know why they haven't used him much in the playoffs at all. Like
He played in the first round
I
pretty
understand.
consistently.
I understand that he's getting up there in age, but he provides that veteran presence, and he's known as
He's
a
still
great
ISO
scorer.
Joe.
Right. So
Yes.
I think he could definitely get you some buckets in games, and especially late in games too. He's not afraid to shy away from that. So to take pressure off of James Harden and Chris Paul, especially down in the clutch, I think Joe Johnson would help them out. That would be interesting to do because he's got the size. Obviously, he's not the most athletic, but I think he does have the size to at least be able to get his shots off.
Exactly.
Yeah. Moving on. So that's the NBA playoffs as it stands right now. But the more exciting stuff for our Detroit Pistons, the NBA draft lottery is tonight.
Is it that exciting for the
It
Pistons?
is that exciting because you know why, Malik?
Wait,
'Cause
wait,
there's a chance?
2.5% chance.
I'll break it down for the people here in a
2.5.
second. But I mean, guys, just start celebrating. The Pistons are going to get the number 1 pick tonight. Luka Doncic
I
going to be
mean,
the
I would
just-
Piston. I'm so excited.
I would like 1, 2, or 3. I don't care.
They're getting the number 1 pick, so we'll have to settle for that. But it's time the NBA pays back the Pistons. It's been 10 years of terrible basketball. It's a black eye for the NBA to see that beautiful Little Caesars Arena having nobody in it. You know what's going to fill seats in Detroit? The number 1 pick. You know what's going to make more money for the NBA? Detroit basketball being better.
You know what won't fill the seats?
What?
Luka Doncic.
Luka
As a
Doncic
Detroit Piston.
Will
The city
fill
of
the
Detroit
seat.
will not embrace
Yes,
the
he
Luka
will.
Doncic.
100% they will.
They
Once
will not.
Once they see Luka play and show that he's not a Darko Milicic, because
He'd have to do a lot to
no,
prove
he
himself
wouldn't.
here.
He just would have to stay
Just
in the
was-
NBA for 2 years
just
and
the-
not do kickboxing.
Just
felt like
the-
there
just
was
the
less
stench
of a risk.
Darko.
I felt like there was less of a risk with Darko originally because he was a 7-1 guy.
He had no
And the
drive
team
for
was
the
already
game.
great.
Right,
The team
so
was
you're like-
already really good.
So you're like, oh, we're
Just
going to
take
just
a
get
chance
a
on him.
huge center here. There's no way that could go wrong. Obviously, we were wrong.
Exactly.
But Doncic is a totally different ballgame.
Thank you. He's a different. He's a better
I'm
player.
not saying like
I
he's
like.
going to work out.
I really like Doncic. He's very skilled, but here, I don't know about that.
All right, let's play the what if game. Well, really the what's going to happen game because the Pistons are getting the number 1 pick tonight. Breaking news. I'm breaking the
Okay,
fourth
what-
wall for you people.
Let me just put the
I'm just
scenario out
saying
there.
it.
What if the Pistons get the 3 pick and
They got the 1 pick. John.
Doncic is gone?
I think, like we talked before, I think it was before the show started, we were talking about certain players that the Pistons might look at. I think Colin Sexton's a name because I think
Exactly. I
they
say
look
Colin.
Malik said
they got
Colin
the third
before.
pick.
I think Trae Young's another player that the Pistons would look at because I don't think they
That
go.
would be exciting.
I don't think
but-
they go big because the top of this draft is big heavy. I mean, you have Marvin Bagley, DeAndre Ayton,
Mo Bamba.
Mo Bamba, just to name a few.
You still got Jaren Jackson is another guy.
Jaren Jackson's another guy that's going to be in the top 5, top 7,
loaded.
depending.
big
Miles
man draft.
Bridges.
And that's
Miles
Miles.
Bridges
Miles
is
is going
like-
to go late lottery. Late lottery.
Yeah,
or
he's
he's
gonna go
not.
late
There's no
lottery.
way he's going top 5.
I think he could go top 10.
There's no way he goes top 5.
I think that'd be a waste of a pick.
I just think
I do too. I think
somebody
that'd be
might do
terrible.
it for the body.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also look at a guy like a Michael Porter. I mean, he had high stock. He was projected to be the
Forget
number.
about
He,
Michael
he was
Porter.
projected to be that number 1 pick before the shoulder injury.
He's still gonna go lottery.
LiAngelo Ball.
BBB. We
I
need
mean,
to-
I'm all about that big baller brand.
You want to fill the seats? There we go.
That is true.
that needs to be our advertisement, Big Baller Brand.
I would not be
We-
opposed
we
to
blow
signing
up.
him as an undrafted free agent. He ain't getting drafted. He's not getting drafted.
Second round, I think.
No,
I
he
think
ain't gonna
so.
get drafted. He has no
think
game.
so.
He's playing against middle schoolers.
But should here's the real
Middle school.
here's
I'm
the real
sure it's
question:
true.
should he be drafted?
Why
no,
not?
no.
Why
Malik's
not?
Malik's
All
why
right.
not is because he wants
Why
to see
not
wants to see another
draft?
ball brother.
All right,
I can see the Lakers.
Malik,
picking
you're
him.
back to a guest. I'm sorry.
What? What? I don't know what I said wrong. I don't know
Bre-
what I said
breaking
wrong.
news: Malik has been cut by the views. I'm just joking.
It was like a nice career.
But yeah. So let's break it down. So tonight, 8 p.m. before Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals, which will be at 8:30 p.m. on ESPN. The NBA Draft Lottery will take place, and no, it will not be Jeff Power representing the Pistons tonight. It'll be
What?
who? What? Cool Hand Luke Kennard being the
My
Cool hand,
man.
Luke.
Cool Hand Luke representing the Detroit Pistons. Gonna hold up that number 1 for us, get nice pictures. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a fun time. But yeah, we here on the show are gonna do a little NBA Draft Lottery simulator. Tankathon.com, they do a really good job of the odds of certain teams getting the pick. And that's website where you're going to use. They have a simulate lottery button. We're just going to click that, and that'll be the views from the sideline prediction. Before we get into that, Joey touched on this too. The percent chance the Pistons actually have to draw into the top 3. Yeah, I'm saying they're going to get the pick because they are going to get the pick, but the actual percentages don't suggest that.
What if I told you 2.5% was more than enough for one team to
Thank you.
change their culture
That's right.
forever?
Change their franchise. They have a 1% chance at the number 3 pick, 0.8% chance at the number 2, and 0.7% chance at number 1. Add that all together, it's 2.5% chance to draw into the top 3.
Can I just add a point real quick
Of
that I
course
was
you can.
thinking off the top of my head?
Of course you can.
I also feel like Doncic is like the worst pick for the Pistons because of the state of the franchise right now.
What do you think's the best pick for the franchise?
I don't know. I just feel like
Mo
something,
Bamba? No.
something a little more safe. I feel like the Pistons should go safer on the draft this year than go.
What
so
I
crazy.
want your version. What is the safe pick?
I said it before. I think
I would say Marvin Bagley's
Like-
probably the safe
like
pick.
I guess Trae Young isn't actually that safe.
I think Colin is safe.
I've
think-
seen
I
a
don't
lot.
know.
A
I
lot
think
of
he
mock
would-
drafts have Colin going late.
Yeah,
late lottery.
I think he can
Colin,
handle this situation.
I think Colin could get into his own head a little bit.
It depends on who can handle this
I
situation.
think maybe the best move for the Pistons
'Cause-
if they got a top 3
Trade it.
pick, trade it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I think trade it down to maybe that 8 to 12 spot because
Maybe.
it's point guard
Can
heavy.
we go
from that
crazy?
range.
Do a first round pick in Andre?
I
Get
think
some- something big.
I really can't wait to see who they hire in as the president because I think that's going to be a huge sign of what direction they actually go in as a franchise.
We need to talk about that too.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk. Hopefully next week we'll have maybe some. We've had no rumbling about who is on the list to be a candidate. Vince Ellis did report though the Pistons were monitoring the Toronto Raptors before they fired Dwayne Casey. Was he fired before our show last week or after?
After.
So breaking news in case you guys
I
haven't
believe.
seen. Yeah, I think it was. Dwayne Casey was let go of the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, because we texted about
Yeah.
it.
The Detroit Pistons, according to Vincent Ellis of the Detroit Free Press, the Pistons have been monitoring that situation. So I think Casey is a prime candidate to be the next coach of the Detroit Pistons. I think that would be an awesome hire. I think it'd be fantastic. 'Cause
Yeah, I think it'd work out.
I think Budenholzer is going to be gone by the time they get to the hiring process of a coach.
Thank goodness.
I mean, that's my dream pick. But
Just kidding.
yeah,
He's a Budenholzer guy.
I can't go against it. I am a Budenholzer guy. So let's get into it. We're gonna sim the lottery here. Hopefully something crazy happens, so we have something to break down. Otherwise, I'll just break down the top 5.
Pistons are gonna have no pick.
All right, here we go. So it's
This is
reset.
probably gonna happen.
I can't see it.
So it's reset. This is how the lottery stands right now.
Oh, okay.
Sim lottery. Wow, we have some movement.
Wow. But I can already tell the Pistons don't have a draft pick.
I'm pretty sure that's gonna be true. Also.
The Pistons lose. Breaking news. According to this lottery, the Pistons lose their pick.
Wow.
But the top 5, they have Dallas moving down a spot to number 5, Memphis moving to 4, Charlotte going all the way up to number 3. They had a 2.9%
That would be
chance.
huge for
Wow.
Charlotte.
That would be yeah.
That would be huge for Charlotte. And they have Phoenix moving down 1 spot to 2. Then the Orlando Magic. Do they go for
Another number 1 pick.
Shaquille O'Neal 2.0?
DeAndre Ayton.
DeAndre Ayton, the dude from
gotta go
Arizona.
Ayton.
I don't think he's Shaquille O'Neal 2.0.
I know he's
don't
not
get it,
Shaq
I don't get it.
2.0.
But it's a big man. I
Yeah,
don't know. It's just first pick.
Shaq, Dwight, next center. You got to go DeAndre Ayton.
I know. That'd be kind of cool, though. I do want to touch on this, too. So Stan's out in Detroit. He did say if another opportunity comes, he wouldn't say no to it. And this is not the end of his career. Do you think Orlando looks Van Gundy's way to come home? Because Stan was a staple in Orlando before the whole Dwight situation.
I don't think so.
You don't
Yeah.
think they even give it a second thought?
At this
No.
point, I don't think his reputation is so high.
I think his
think-
reputation with
I
inside.
I think there are
I think
too many.
he still has a good reputation.
I
But
think there
Yeah.
are too many good candidates out there right now.
What? Okay, other than Casey Budenholzer,
did the Magic fire?
I guess I would kind of count out Stackhouse though.
the Magic did fire Vogel. Frank
Oh,
Vogel
okay.
is gone.
Stackhouse seems pretty set to be the Raptors coach, or it seems like he's the leading.
I've heard. I mean, between the two, because Budenholzer has talked to ownership with the Bucks. I think it was this morning he talked with them, so they seem close on a deal. But Adrian Wojnarowski also said that Budenholzer is still talking with Toronto. So Mike's really probably the guy making the decision, not Milwaukee and not Toronto.
I don't think any coach could fix the Magic. Just
Not
I
right-
wanted to make that clear.
Not right now.
It may only be
Although
Stan Van.
they have young talent, but that organization is a
Hey
mess.
guys, the last time the Orlando Magic made the playoffs, guess who the head coach was?
Stan Van Gundy.
Stan Van Gundy. I would love to see Stan coaching
I
again,
mean,
just not the Pistons. You know,
he was kind of. I mean, I guess he made some of that team, but Dwight Howard was a stud when he came out, so
yeah, it was.
that definitely helped.
Well, I mean, they did make. I mean, it wasn't Stan being the president, but they did make good moves.
Getting Rashard Lewis.
Rashard was huge. It was really that start of that four out, 1 in offense in the NBA. JJ Redick developed under him. We had Vince Carter. Vince was fantastic in Orlando.
Tito before he got banned from the NBA.
Yeah, for that drugs or whatever he was on
Jameer
steroids.
Nelson before he kept eating donuts.
Yep.
Dude, Jameer Nelson. What a waste of a second round pick. Holy cow.
Alfred Payton, Jameer Nelson.
It's pretty even, right? Take the
Yeah, I don't know.
37-year-old dude.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, so Pistons get the number 1 pick tonight. I'll be wearing my Chauncey Billups jersey next week because I'm going to just be so happy as a fan. And the sad boy era will be officially behind us.
What? Don't the Pistons have what, the 43rd?
42nd.
Darn it!
So
we
we have
could
the one
almost we could almost wear our Tolliver jerseys.
So they'll have the number 1 pick and the 42nd pick.
I hope nobody owns a Anthony Tolliver jersey.
I
to be
actually
honest.
don't. No, I actually don't. I have a lot of crazy
Obscure
jerseys. I have a Kim English jersey.
You have a
Kim English jersey. Josh Smith, Kyle Singler. I didn't get a Gigi Datome. I don't
You
think.
just get rid of
You
that.
should have
Kyle
got the
Singler.
Gigi.
I should've
Why
got
did you
the
get a
Gigi.
Kim English jersey?
I don't know.
Why do
I
you have
don't
a
know.
Kyle Singler jersey? Please get rid of that.
I have like 3 Brandon Knight jerseys. One's autographs. One's like this weird camo. We should have just an episode about the jersey collection. I have a obscure jersey
I
collection.
need to get a Jarvis Hayes Pistons jersey. That
Jarvis
was my
Hayes.
guy when
Dude,
he
I
was
loved
here.
Jarvis Hayes. Yeah. Mo Evans was my guy too as a kid.
Mo Evans.
Jeez.
Wow.
I have an Austin Day jersey.
Chucky
Yeah, but Kim
Atkins,
English
John
jersey.
Barry, those would be cool.
Yeah, Brent Barry's gonna be in the front office, so rock that John Barry jersey. So yeah, we got a couple minutes here before we wrap up the show. We're moving along here. We talked about Budenholzer meeting with the Bucks ownership group, and that's a huge thing. Ettore Messina, the Spurs assistant, another Spurs assistant going up for a head coaching job, is also considered a finalist. So if Mike accepts the Toronto job, they probably go Messina.
Becky Hammond is also up for the Bucks job.
Becky Hammond is up. According to Woj today, he didn't mention her as a finalist.
Okay.
So we'll see. I hope Becky gets a shot.
I feel like she fits on one of those teams that already has a team.
I just don't think.
Yeah. I
We
think
talked about
she
it
needs
before.
she needs a few more years as an
I think
assistant.
she needs the right situation.
Yeah, I think she needs to be gifted more of a team because
Yeah, not
if
gifted,
she gets-
but
yeah, a little bit. If she gets put in a tough situation, that's going to be hard.
I don't think she'd work in Detroit.
It's always a tough time for a first-time head coach to get a job, especially like Detroit. Like, I don't
What
know how
about-
you do it.
What about when Pop steps away? She could be the next person coming up. you
That's
know?
that was my first thought a few years ago.
'Cause
Pop,
Right.
Pop
Pop-
just hands her the keys to the
I think
franchise.
100% with his main assistants going, Pop would easily say, Becky, it's your time. Especially with the type of guy Greg Popovich is,
Right,
I think he would make the move of saying, I think it's Becky's time to step up.
right.
And I think that'd be awesome for basketball. It's coming soon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And
she'll be the first. I think
she'll be the first. Yeah.
for sure.
There's other prospects out there. There's forgive me, I know her first name is Nancy. She's an assistant coach for the Sacramento
Nancy
Kings.
Lieberman.
Yes. Thank you, Malik.
Yep.
Um,
I'm pretty sure she was a head coach of a D League team.
She
I'm
was a
pretty
head.
sure.
No,
Texas Legends was it?
I
wasn't
think
that
she
her?
was. No.
I think she coached. a
Maybe not
D-League
Texas
team.
because I think it was a Sacramento. It was a Sacramento team.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she is another female coach prospect. I think those are the only strong candidates. But yeah, so Budenholzer will probably make his decision. I'd probably expect that this week. And then we touched on this before. The Atlanta Hawks made some news. They hired Philly's assistant Lloyd Pierce. Really not a huge name within coaching circles or for the average NBA fan, but he is a really good defensive coach like we saw him incorporate in Philly this year. Do you think he has a dramatic impact on Atlanta next year or within his 4-year contract, Joe?
No,
Really?
I think Atlanta's a mess right now. I think they're in trouble.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry, I know I just asked you this question, but I'm going to forget if I don't say this. Dennis Schroeder today deleted everything Atlanta Hawks on his Instagram page because, we got to follow the media guys.
These
but
guys and deleting.
I know,
Social
I know.
media players.
he
man.
deleted every picture with the Atlanta Hawks and erased
So
Atlanta
bad.
Hawks from his bio and all that. So he's a guy that might be on the market.
I don't blame him. He's trying to get some money.
I don't think he's a free agent, is he?
I don't know. I'm just saying, better money. Like, I don't know, just being seen.
Yeah.
Atlanta's
It's
sort
a
of a poor market, and
Dennis wants to play meaningful games. You're not going to play
Right.
meaningful games in
there's-
Atlanta. I fully think the Hawks are going for the process 2.0.
maybe,
I feel bad for John Collins. He was a really good, young, promising rookie,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
he
he's
has to
gonna-
stay in
he has-
Atlanta.
And Torian Prince,
Torian
he's
Prince,
solid,
plays
too.
he had a
really
couple
good.
30-point games this year.
Yeah, he's looked really.
He might be
good.
the one good player out of Baylor.
I thought he was just
I
gonna
know.
be.
I thought he was going to be.
I thought he was just gonna be a hustle player.
Yeah.
But he's produced and shown some
Them
offensive
two and
skills.
Kent Bazemore.
So
They overpaid for Kent.
they
Bazemore.
have
That
a little
was-
bit of talent, but they're in trouble for
Yeah,
a while.
I think that's honestly for Atlanta ownership. That's what they want. Before we step away here, I want to get your quick opinion. Who do you think needs to win the lottery the most between all the teams in the lottery? And I'm gonna have to say you have to exclude the Pistons.
All right.
I'll give you a list. I'll give you the list of teams so you don't leave anybody
How
out.
much is the lottery? 13, 12 or 13?
It's 14 teams.
14, okay.
I'll let you guys look at the lottery and tell me which team
14
needs
teams.
to strike gold. Here, you can just take it and then show Malik. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's got to be Memphis. I think Memphis really needs to get the number 1 pick. They've kind of fallen off. I think this franchise is in disarray. Ownership might be looking to move the franchise. They have an owner who is not from Memphis, doesn't have ties to the city, and with a team like Seattle waiting for a franchise, I think Memphis really needs to hit, get a star, and rejuvenate that fan base and create more sales for ownership.
I think Memphis. I was gonna say Sacramento, but
I think Sacramento might be okay.
yeah,
What the drafting they did last year is really.
And they have an owner that wants
Yeah.
to keep
I
them there
think
too.
I-
I think it's huge.
I think I'm gonna say Dallas.
Dallas needs to hit.
Yeah, I think Dallas or Memphis because Dallas had some promises for a little while, and I thought even when they made the move for Nerlens Noel that maybe he would turn his career around. He hasn't. Yogi Ferrell's looked pretty good. Dennis Smith Jr.'s looked pretty good. And obviously, unfortunately, Dirk is fading. He's going to play a little bit longer, but
Dallas needs that next star.
He's not who he was. And they're pretty lackluster all around.
Yeah. And then Malik, who do you think?
I wasn't thinking Dallas at first, but I'm going to add Dallas to the 3 teams I thought. Memphis, first of all.
Yeah, Memphis, Dallas, and who else?
Orlando really needs something.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Orlando needs something.
Yeah, especially with Alfred Payton being gone.
And they've had a couple number 2, number 3 picks. Yeah. Aaron Gordon's starting to finally produce, but he's not at the level of a number 2 pick. Same with Oladipo. Of course, they see Oladipo, who was a number 2 pick. He is a star in the league now, but he had to go away from that franchise, develop under Russell Westbrook, and now is a stud in Indiana.
Yeah. Orlando, they started the season pretty good and then just completely fell off. So.
I think if, depending on how it goes, obviously, I think if the Suns were able to secure the number 1 and get DeAndre Ayton, I think they could be
huge. That'd be really huge.
They could be close. They could be on their way.
Josh Jackson is going to be a good player.
I mean, they're going to have nice talent. They'll definitely will.
TJ Warren, Alfred Payton.
My last one, I think the Clippers need a top 5 pick.
Well, they're going to have 2 lottery picks this year.
Because that is really good because I think they
from
need
our
a top
boys.
5 pick. Because
no, they're not going to have 2 lottery picks this year because the Pistons are drawing number 1.
Although they got Tobias Avery Bradley, I think that may fall apart very soon. I think Doc Rivers could be out very soon. I don't think that core that they have is going to last very long, and I don't think it's going to do anything special for them in the long run. Steve Ballmer is going to try to do something.
Yeah.
Because he wants to fill those seats.
Yeah, definitely, and most owners do. Well, that's our show for the day. A lot of playoff talk. Really this pre-hype before we officially get the word that the Pistons won the lottery, so excited about that.
I'm happy it's finally coming, so we don't have to just debate anymore.
I know.
We'll see what the lottery
is. We have the Pistons at number 1.
We can be back to being disappointed again.
We're going to be ecstatic because the Pistons are going to have the number 1 pick. But
Pistons with the number 1 pick.
Malik Hill, welcome to the team. Views from the Sidelines got 3 hosts now, and we're super happy to have you on the show. And like always, we will be back next week. Right, Joe?
Yeah.
All right. Confirmed. We'll see you guys next time. See ya.
Bye.